welcome to Monson Made This, where I cook vegan food. So if you want more vegan recipes, more vegan content, you should click that subscribe button below and also hit the bell notification while you're down there so that you're notified when new videos come out. Today's video is going to be my extra special Thanksgiving episode. Last year, I did a whole series of side dishes for you to bring over to your friends and family's houses for Thanksgiving or make for yourself for Thanksgiving. But for this year, I'm simplifying things a little bit, and I'm basically putting all of our favorite Thanksgiving foods veganized into one pot pie inspired dish. So it's going to be like green bean casserole meets stuffing, meets sweet potato pie, meets gravy and vegan turkey. So all that's going to be going together, and it's going to be delicious, and you can make it to bring over to someone else's house, or you can just make it for yourself to have a delicious comfort food vegan Thanksgiving for one or two. Now I'm going to be cooking mine in a 10-inch cast iron skillet, so this is a one-pot dinner. You could easily cook it in an 8x8 baking dish. That would obviously not make it one pot any longer, but you could do it in an 8x8 baking dish, or if you wanted to do individual servings, you could do these sort of 5-inch cast iron pots, or even these like 4 to 5-inch little dishes. You're gonna get about 4 of the smaller size versus 1 of the bigger size, so it's all up to you. All of this, because it's one pot, is gonna be happening behind me on the stove. So let's go back there and start throwing this easy Thanksgiving one pot pie together. Even though this dish contains all of your favorite Thanksgiving foods, the two main components of it are a gravy portion and then a stuffing portion. And both of them get sauteed onions. So I'm just sauteing an entire onion here, and then I will separate it in just a bit. Now, the entire recipe will of course be on monsonmadethis.com, and that is also linked below. So you don't need to worry about measurements or writing anything down right now, because you can just go to the website and have it all printed out for you. So I'm gonna wait for this onion to cook down a little bit, and then I'm gonna separate it, and then we'll continue building the gravy in this pot. We'll put together the stuffing in a bowl. Still a one-pot dish. I'm still sticking to that. But the gravy or the stuffing will go together in another bowl, and then they'll come together. It's kind of like a pot pie. The stuffing will be the topping. It'll get nice and crispy on top. It's gonna be so delicious, but we just have to wait right now for the onions to cook. All right, it's just been a couple of minutes for the onions. I don't want them to have any color. I just need them to soften a little bit. So I'm taking out half of these onions and I'm putting them in this large bowl, which is where my stuffing is going to be assembled. I also had some vegan butter in the pan, and there's also a bit of vegan butter here in this bowl, and that'll melt when I add my hot stock. So to the onions with a little bit of vegan butter, which I'm just using Earth Balance, I'm adding just a cup of veggie broth. This is actually the no chicken flavored Better Than bouillon, and this is my favorite sort of vegan chicken base. There's a lot of different ones that you can use. This one's my favorite. I've also tested this entire recipe using the Better Than bouillon veggie broth, so that works well also. This was heated, the broth was hot, so it's melting the vegan butter a little bit. To that, I'm adding some chopped pecans and some dried cranberries. And then finally, the stuffing is store-bought stuffing. This is Mrs. Cubison's, I guess it is. I just Googled while I was in the store, vegan store-bought brands of stuffing that were accidentally vegan, and this herb seasoned stuffing came up as vegan, so that's the one I bought. And you just need about 5 ounces of dry stuffing, and this is gonna be enough to cover the entire pot pie, one pot Thanksgiving. So I'm just gonna stir this together, then I'm gonna put a lid on it and let it hang out and let the breadcrumbs absorb the broth and flavor seasonings while I finish the gravy base portion of this pot pie. The stuffing needs to hang out and absorb the broth, so I'm just gonna cover it with a silicone lid, and this can hang out indefinitely while we go back to the cast iron and finish up our one pot Thanksgiving pot pie. So the onions are already in here softened, and I'm gonna be putting mushrooms in this. If you're not a fan of mushrooms, leave them out, but it's just gonna help to give a depth of flavor and make this kind of a mushroom gravy. Now, it's a pot pie meets Thanksgiving gravy. I keep saying these same things, but what we're gonna do here is end up creating like a gravy that's a little bit thicker and just like a stronger base so that it can hold up and be more like a pot pie texture, but it's still gonna have that flavor of, say, like a Thanksgiving turkey gravy. That's obviously going to be from the no chicken Better Than bouillon, but like I said, you could use the vegetable flavor as well, or whatever your favorite vegetable stock is. We're also gonna be adding some sweet potatoes, and I'm gonna be adding some Gardein chicken strips. It does say teriyaki, but that's just a sauce that comes in it. I'm not adding the sauce, obviously. And so I'm just gonna be cutting those up into little cubes, and that'll be added to kind of be the turkey portion of our pot pie. I have some other seasonings as well that'll come in here in just a bit, but again, we just need to wait now for the mushrooms to cook down just a little bit before we add the flour and start to thicken this gravy base up. To really deliver that Thanksgiving flavor, poultry seasoning is a really great option. It contains, if I can see the ingredients here, thyme, sage, marjoram, rosemary, pepper, nutmeg. Basically, it's all the spices and seasonings that you associate with Thanksgiving or fall flavor. So I'm gonna add just about a teaspoon, maybe a little bit more here. And I'm adding it at this point so that I can toast it up just slightly to help kind of open up those flavors. Because some flavors are fat soluble, so by mixing them with a little bit of oil, or like we're doing vegan butter with this, it's just gonna help to open up those flavors and make the final dish a little bit more flavorful. I'm just gonna go for a few seconds, and then I'm going to be adding the flour, and already the entire house smells like a Thanksgiving dinner. All right, so let's add the flour. This is just all-purpose flour. You could use a gluten-free flour if you wanted to make this portion gluten-free, but the breadcrumbs that we're going to be using for the stuffing, as you've already saw me make, is not going to be gluten-free. And this is quite a bit of flour. Like I mentioned earlier, this is going to be quite a thick gravy consistency because we're going to be adding some green beans as well, which will help to loosen that mixture up. So we want it really thick going in, but it'll loosen up as it bakes. So I'm gonna let this cook for maybe just about a minute or so, get some of the raw flavor out of the flour, and then we will begin adding our broth and our sweet potatoes. Just wanna make sure my broth is mixed well, and this is pretty warm still. And I'm gonna add a little bit at a time, stirring, and this is gonna thicken up as I go. I don't wanna add it all at one time because that'll have a tendency to give me some clumps. I probably will have a few. I'm not the best at making gravies without lumps, but I'm gonna try my best. I'm also gonna be adding just a little bit of almond milk as well at the end, and that'll just kind of make it a slightly creamier gravy. It's not a full like country gravy that's a dairy base, or I guess it'd be a vegan dairy based. This is a little bit looser, like a broth base, but I do wanna add just a little bit of vegan milk in there to make things kind of creamy. Things are pretty thick. I've got this on low, and I'm gonna add my sweet potatoes in right now. And the reason I'm adding them fairly early on is so that they have a chance to cook down a little bit. It's only gonna go in the oven for about 30 minutes once it's fully assembled, so I wanna give the sweet potatoes a chance to soften up quite a bit before they go in the oven. So I'm gonna leave them in here for maybe a couple of minutes before I add the remaining ingredients. I also have some other seasonings I wanna add. I love nutritional yeast for just adding a bit of savory flavor, so I'm gonna add that as well. And then a little bit of Bragg's liquid aminos, which is a low sodium soy sauce. And that's just gonna help develop some umami as well. So after about a minute, I'm going to add my vegan chicken, and then I'm gonna add my frozen green beans right out of the freezer. And then we'll be pretty much ready to add the stuffing topping and bake this thing off. I'm grabbing the green beans directly from the freezer, and the reason I'm keeping these frozen up until the last minute is just so they don't overcook inside of our pot pie. So I'm gonna add the vegan chicken, I'm gonna add the almond milk, and then these will go in very last. So this is just about half cup of almond milk. Vegan chicken, which I just liked it in little cubes. You could use whatever your favorite flavor or variety is. Get this mixed up. And then this is just a 10-ounce bag of green beans, and this will go in at the last minute. One last thing I want to do before adding the green beans is actually give this a taste. I just want to make sure that there's enough salt, pepper, seasoning, because the last thing I want is to make this entire dish, bake it off, and then it not have any flavor in the end. Keep in mind, the broth has to carry the flavor of not only the vegan chicken and the sweet potatoes, but also a bag of green beans. So I am gonna add just a little pinch of salt, and I think I'm gonna add quite a bit of black pepper. All right, now let's add the green beans. These are cut green beans, not the full green beans. You definitely want to make sure they're the cut, otherwise they could be a little bit difficult to eat. All right, heat is going off. I'm gonna stir this together, and then we'll get the stuffing out and put that right on top. And here is our stuffing. It's been going for maybe about 10 minutes or so, and I'm just going to spoon this on the top. I've also kind of flattened our pot pie, and I'm just gonna spoon this on the top and then press it down slightly. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I also have a baking sheet, actually a Silpat line baking sheet in the oven, and that's just in case there is a little bit of overflow, in case this starts to bubble up, that'll catch any drips, so I don't have to clean it up off the floor of the oven later. I love the little bits of cranberry in here. They add a tang. They also just add a pop of color as well. And I will be serving this with some cranberry sauce, which I think is a must. It just helps to balance the flavor because this is such a rich, savory dish. Having something bright and kind of acidic as a cranberry sauce just really helps. This is going in the oven covered for 30 minutes, and then it will be uncovered for about 15 minutes, and I'll increase the temperature a little bit as well from 350 to 375. And you could use foil, parchment, whatever it is that you want to cover it. I'm gonna be using this silicone lid because this works for me and it fits over my pot perfectly. So let me grab my hot pad, pardon me, and put this right into the oven. Setting the timer for 30 minutes. And I'll see you back there when it's time to take off the lid. 30 minutes is up. I'm going to take the lid off. Again, I just have the silicone covering on there. Looks beautiful. Looks like it's already bubbling a little bit. The house smells delicious. I'm gonna put it up to 375. Set the timer for 15 more minutes. And then we'll be ready to dig in. All right, 15 minutes is up. Smells incredible. It's bubbling all around the edges. The stuffing has a nice crisp crust, and you definitely want to wait maybe about 5-10 minutes before cutting into this. I know it's going to be difficult, but trust me, it'll be better just after a few minutes setting up. So I'm going to let this set up before I dig into it and give it a taste with this just store-bought cranberry sauce, which is just going to really help add some nice acidity and balance to this really rich and savory dish. So ready to dig into this, but before I do so, I'm going to add a bit of cranberry sauce. Looks beautiful, smells incredible, all of the flavors and fragrances of Thanksgiving without any dead turkeys, and I'm just so excited to give it a taste. So without further ado, let's dig in. It's so comforting, so cozy. It's like the best part of Thanksgiving being the leftovers, but the first time around you get them. And I mean, it's gonna be great leftover as well, but it's so, everything is like perfectly cooked, and with that poultry seasoning, it just has that perfect kind of like Thanksgiving aroma and fragrance, and just fires on all cylinders, again, without having any dead turkey involved. So that's great. I just want to thank my friend Rachel, who was the one that actually kind of inspired this. She and I were having a conversation about what I should do for my Thanksgiving videos, which she's a channel membership. So if you do want to join channel memberships, go ahead and click join below. But she was saying, well, what about doing a dish for 1 or 2? Because a lot of people are going to be maybe alone this Thanksgiving, or don't want to have a huge group of people around them. So I wanted to come up with something that people could make that was quick, easy, satisfying, served all of that Thanksgiving comfort without being a huge spread and a big time constraint, and without having to have a lot of people around. You can just have this by yourself or with a few of your closest friends. So thank you, Rachel, for this idea. And thanks to all of you who have joined the channel, who have subscribed to this channel, who support me on Patreon. I mean, Thanksgiving is about being thankful, and I'm very thankful to all of you that help keep this channel going and just keep me inspired to make more and more content and, you know, financially supporting this channel so that I can keep doing this. If you can't financially support this channel, then just by subscribing and liking the videos, that helps as well. So thank you to all of you who have helped me, and thanks to those of you that are going to hit subscribe right now. And also for those of you that are hitting the like button. So thanks again. I will see you all with the next video. Probably going to do like a sweet Thanksgiving dessert type of thing so that you can follow this meal with a delicious dessert. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll see you next time with another recipe video. Bye.